Okay, so, there's that saying, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Well, that's true. I mean, coincidences are often not coincidences. There are genuine coincidences, but a lot of coincidences are more part of a pattern. Now, the more there's a coincidence, the more it's even less of a pattern, more of an orchestration. And this brings us to a lot of the ongoing conversation, whether Harry and Louis are baiting Larry's for marketing purposes. Now, I can see where people are saying this, but if you've ever looked at marketing campaigns and the lifespan of marketing brands, if you're old enough to remember, Taco Bell used to have that little chihuahua, and then they retired it, and then the slogan kind of stays the same. So there's a certain sort of shelf life to how a brand and how a messaging operates. Now, usually within a 15-year period, there's going to be a slight skewing of the message, an alteration. Something gets retired. It's like how David Bowie retired Ziggy Stardust. So that's where you can tell there's a strategic conception and execution of a marketing campaign. So, with that said, this is the reason why I will say that Larry is not being used to bait, because if you break down the ledger of the revenue streams, it's near impossible that Larry is that lucrative when you consider that, say, the 28 clothing line is pretty much more known in the UK and not so much in the US. And if you look at the ratios of how many fans there are versus how many people buy it, and like the locations that they're bought and the distribution, it does not make sense. It's not profitable enough. It's not profitable. It doesn't just break even, but it doesn't represent a significant portion of the profits. Now, also, like most artists, they morph, and when people morph, like how Kiss, they had the makeup and they didn't have the makeup, then they had the makeup again, and then Madonna has kind of had all these little metamorphoses, like the chameleon. Some artists might be more consistent in their look and appearance, but they may experiment with styles. And so when they do that, that's kind of where you'll see a parallel with their marketing, branding, taking different twists and turns to kind of basically play on the novelty factor to keep people interested. So that said, if there's one thing about Larry, is it's so goddamn consistent. And it's, it also, if this whole Harry doing the Danny Zuko thing, singing the song from Grease, which we all know Grease is Louis' favorite song. Louis played Danny Zuko in a school play, I think about 3 or 4 years before he was selected on X Factor. And then Louis has talked about Grease in an early One Direction video. Then you can tell when something's contrived, because to pull it off, like there's a way that you could artificially contrive it, but it wouldn't land, because in order for it to convey the message of hopelessly devoted and you're still in my mind, there's a level of genuineness that you have to have, and authenticity, that only someone that is a complete and utter like method acting genius could do that. And like Harry's in his element when he's on stage. Harry's so easy to read. He's so emotionally porous. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You can tell he's doing his media training when he looks stoic, because it's incongruent with who he is, right? So my point is, he couldn't have pulled off the Harry Ween performance and it not look like an utter contrived thing if it wasn't genuine. And because every time he's done this slight change of you and Lou, that's a common one. He did that in One Direction many times, so it's like consistent. People know what the genuine looked like, so if he was to even fake it, if they broke up or they were never together or they hate each other now, it would feel off, because he did it so many times. You have a reference point, you have a baseline. When people break up and they're not together and they're really done with each other, if you look at the sort of the love story between James Taylor and Carly Simon, they wrote songs about each other after their divorce, because they married, had 2 children, divorced. They still say that each other is the love of each other's lives, but they've been divorced for decades. And if you look at the post-divorce music that each put out, there's a different tone to it. There's a different sentimentality to it. It just, you can tell it's more the morning of the end, where with Harry and Louis, it's an ever-written love story, even when there's the highs and lows that you can sort of see if you track the music. So this is why, if you look at when Zayn and Louis reconnected after Liam passed, you can tell that's a bromance. And it comes down to body language. So what I'm saying is it's not what people think it is. There's no way that this can be a marketing hook, because the hook's been too consistent. It's too stable in terms of the expression. There's too many coincidences that either would have looked really contrived by now, or just would have been like too precise, that it would be like, this isn't natural. It's sort of like AI. As much as AI photos and text can seem really amazing, if you get to know someone's writing style, if you get to look at the micro expressions in the eyes, AI can't replicate that. You can replicate a bit. I think it might get really good eventually at doing this, but it's sort of like, it's sort of like false eyelashes. Even if they're made from real eyelashes, you can kind of tell they're fake, no matter how perfectly they're put on. It's just, I think there's an innate human ability to tell whether it's micro expressions or interoception, the natural versus the genuine. It's like, why is it that that Japanese man that like made a really realistic dog suit goes out and tries to be a dog and play with a dog, even though the dog suit, look it up, is so genuinely authentic with down to the material. Why is it that dogs don't want to play with him? Because what do they know he's human, even though humans are fooled by the costume? So it's the same kind of thing. You can tell when it is fake, and I don't know how to say it. I think it goes beyond the realm of logic. I think it goes down to like humans as a soul can recognize the real, unless you're completely cut off from yourself, and that's another story. But that's why I don't think it's baiting, because of it so consistently lands on a sentiment. And the fact that I'm not saying this is even like proof of anything, but when I've had people that work in behavioral science who don't know who One Direction is, didn't recognize who Harry Styles was because he's changed so much, when they saw the footage, literally it only took 15 minutes of footage that's not the really stylized collages people make, but just random raw footage of like them hanging around, not a Larry video per se, but just more like videos from X Factor that talk about how the boys really get along, and diaries, things that are not specifically geared towards isolating Larry interactions or perceived Larry interactions. All of the people that I showed it to, who they for a living have to assess people's affects and presentations, first thing they said after 15 minutes was, those 2 boys are dating. Okay, and these are people that don't have an agenda, and again, didn't know who One Direction really was. They were way past the age that it was it was marketed to. So I would say the biggest proof that there is a Larry still is Harry Ween. And when this whole Zara thing emerged, for me, I was saying, oh, they can't be together because Harry looks too depressed. But then now that when I backtrack it and I look at, oh, yeah, they probably planned the whole Zara thing for a while. And now I can see why he was depressed. Harry was even jealous of Stan, Louis' best friend. So take a listen to the Hopelessly Devoted to Lou, which is a clear audio, which I will post in the comments. But no, they're not baiting. I think they're together, and I think it's kind of like Janet Jackson's second marriage. She was married for years, and nobody knew until she got divorced that she'd been married for almost 10 years. Keep that in mind. I heard Lou, the audience heard Lou. He even said Lou twice. So if you look at other times where there was a slight lyric change, listen to the tone. Now, I know people's ears hear things a little differently depending on your state of hearing, but I heard Lou, and so should you.